There is a quiet moment that eventually comes to almost everyone, often late at night when the world becomes still and you are left alone with your own thoughts. You suddenly recognize that you have been searching for something for a very long time. Not with your hands, not by traveling from one place to another, but through your awareness. You have been reaching with the deepest part of yourself towards something that always seemed just outside your grasp. Something you felt should belong to you, yet somehow remained distant, like trying to hold water in an open hand. And then a different question begins to surface. What if the thing you have been searching for has, in some way, been moving toward you too? What if the abundance, opportunity, love, success, or life you've imagined is not as far away as you thought? What if the greatest barrier isn't the absence of those possibilities, but the identity and expectations you have been carrying while waiting for them? This is where meaningful transformation begins, not simply with changing what surrounds you, but with changing the way you understand yourself. So many people spend years waiting for external circumstances to give them permission to believe they are worthy. They wait for more money, better timing, the perfect opportunity, approval from someone else, or some unmistakable sign that they are finally allowed to want more. They move through life as though they are standing outside a locked door, hoping someone else will decide whether they are worthy of entering. But what if that approach is completely backwards? What if the starting point is not the world deciding who you are, but you deciding who you are, and allowing that identity to influence the way you live? Your circumstances do not have to become the final authority over your self-image. Your beliefs about yourself influence your expectations, your choices, your habits, and the opportunities you are willing to recognize. Consider the idea of winning a lottery. Most people immediately associate it with chance, randomness, and luck. But there is another interesting way to think about the word luck. A person who believes they are fortunate may behave differently without consciously planning to. They may be more willing to take opportunities, speak to new people, explore unfamiliar possibilities, or act when others hesitate. They may notice openings that someone expecting disappointment would overlook. From the outside, the result can look like extraordinary luck. But underneath, it may be a completely different pattern of expectation and behavior. The important point is not that positive thinking magically guarantees a specific outcome. It is that what you expect from yourself influences what you notice, what you attempt, how you respond, and what possibilities you allow yourself to pursue. Your inner assumptions matter because they shape the person who walks through the world. Imagine two people entering the same room. One expects rejection and immediately becomes quiet, hesitant, and guarded. The other expects that they have something valuable to contribute and therefore speaks, asks questions, and engages. They encounter the same environment, but their experiences can be dramatically different because their assumptions lead them to behave differently. This is why examining your assumptions is so important. Many of them were not consciously chosen. You absorbed them from childhood, from family, culture, friends, school, difficult experiences, and repeated messages about what was possible. Over time, those ideas can become so familiar that you stop recognizing them as beliefs. They simply feel like facts. You've heard that money is difficult to earn. You've heard that success is reserved for certain people. You've heard that you have to struggle endlessly before you deserve anything good. You've heard that some people are simply lucky, while others are destined to remain behind. When these messages are repeated often enough, they can become part of the identity through which you interpret everything. But familiarity does not automatically make an assumption true. One of the most powerful things you can do is become aware of the beliefs you have been carrying without questioning them. You are already making assumptions about yourself every day. You assume what kind of person you are. You assume what other people think of you. You assume what opportunities are available to you. You assume what you can and cannot accomplish. You assume what will probably happen before it happens. And those expectations influence your behavior long before the outside world gives you a result. Right now, even as you listen to these words, you have some internal picture of yourself. Perhaps you see yourself as someone who has to struggle for everything. Perhaps you see yourself as someone who is capable, but always a little behind. Perhaps you believe good things eventually happen, but only after exhausting effort and disappointment. Or perhaps you already carry a quiet expectation that opportunities can find you and that you are capable of handling them when they arrive. These internal positions are not meaningless. They affect how you move through life. If you constantly expect that good things are reserved for someone else, you may overlook opportunities because you don't recognize yourself as someone who belongs in those spaces. If you expect that progress is possible, you may be more willing to take the first step. The shift begins when you stop treating every old assumption as an unchangeable truth. You can choose which beliefs deserve your attention. You can question the stories that have limited you. You can replace an automatic expectation of failure with a more balanced expectation that you are capable of learning, adapting, and improving. You don't have to force yourself to believe something unrealistic. You simply begin practicing a new relationship with possibility. The word assumption sounds ordinary, but assumptions have enormous influence over daily life. We make them constantly without realizing it. We assume tomorrow will come. We assume the ground will support us when we walk. We assume familiar routines will continue. Because these expectations feel natural, we don't spend our energy questioning them. They become the invisible foundation beneath our decisions. Now imagine bringing that same sense of familiarity to a healthier belief about yourself. Instead of treating success as something completely foreign, begin seeing yourself as someone capable of creating opportunities. Instead of assuming rejection, assume that you can communicate clearly and find people who appreciate what you bring. Instead of assuming that every setback proves you are failing, assume that setbacks can provide information and help you improve your direction. Your assumption becomes a lens through which you interpret what happens next. Think of it like a filter. If your internal filter is constantly searching for evidence that life is against you, you will notice every disappointment. If your filter is trained to notice possibility, progress, support, and solutions, you become more likely to see those things too. You are not controlling every event around you, but you are influencing the way you meet those events. That is where your real power begins. You are not powerless simply because you cannot control every circumstance. You can control what you practice believing about yourself, how you respond, what actions you take, and which direction you continue choosing. Your assumptions are like a compass. They don't magically transport you to a destination, but they influence which direction you repeatedly walk. If you consistently assume that you are incapable, your behavior may reinforce that belief. If you consistently practice the belief that you are capable of growth, your behavior can begin moving in another direction. The transformation begins when you stop waiting for the world to give you a new identity and begin building that identity through your thoughts, choices, and actions. You don't need to wait until everything changes before you become the person who can handle a changed life. Begin becoming that person now. Let confidence become familiar. Let possibility become familiar. Let the expectation of progress become familiar. Over time, what once felt like a distant version of yourself can begin to feel natural. And when your identity changes, the way you interact with opportunities, relationships, work, challenges, and uncertainty changes with it. The goal is not to convince yourself that you control every event in existence. The goal is to recognize that your inner assumptions have real influence over the life you build. So ask yourself honestly, what have I been assuming about who I am? What have I been expecting from life? What possibilities have I rejected before even giving them a chance? And most importantly, which assumptions am I ready to stop carrying? Because the moment you become conscious of an old belief, you gain the ability to question it. And once you can question it, you can choose something better. You are not required to remain the person created by yesterday's expectations. You can begin today with a different assumption, that you are capable, that growth is possible. that opportunities can exist beyond what you currently see, and that your future does not have to be a copy of your past. There is a certain kind of person who seems to attract unexpected opportunities, fortunate moments, and positive turns in life. It is not necessarily because they are smarter, more talented, or somehow more deserving than everyone else. What separates them is often the way they see themselves. They move through life with an inner expectation that good things are possible for them. They do not constantly wonder whether they are worthy of receiving. They do not approach every opportunity with desperation or fear that it will disappear. There is a quiet sense within them that they belong in a life where good things can happen. When they pursue an opportunity, they are not desperately trying to convince life to give them something. They are moving from an inner assumption that receiving is possible. That assumption influences how they behave, what they notice, the decisions they make, and the opportunities they are willing to recognize. What looks like extraordinary luck from the outside can sometimes begin with an entirely different internal expectation. This is the deeper principle behind changing your circumstances. It is not simply about repeating positive words while secretly believing the opposite. It is not about forcing yourself to smile when you feel uncertain or pretending that everything is perfect when it clearly is not. The deeper transformation happens when you begin changing your sense of identity. Instead of constantly thinking about who you might become someday, you begin practicing the inner state of the person you want to become now. You begin asking yourself how that version of you would think, respond, decide, and carry themselves. Then you allow those qualities to become familiar within you. You are not denying your present circumstances. You are choosing not to make those circumstances the permanent definition of who you are. Take a quiet moment and imagine what it would feel like to become someone who naturally expects life to contain unexpected opportunities. Imagine waking up without immediately assuming that something will go wrong. Imagine moving through your day without constantly waiting for disappointment. How would your thoughts feel? How would your conversations change? How would you respond when an opportunity appeared? Someone who carries this inner confidence does not need to force everything into place. They are not constantly grasping for control. They have developed a sense of inner permission, as though they have finally allowed themselves to believe that positive possibilities belong in their life too. That shift can change the way they notice the world. They become more willing to speak, act, explore, connect, and take opportunities that they might previously have overlooked. There is an important distinction here. Your inner state does not magically guarantee a particular external event, and no mindset can control every circumstance of life. But your expectations can strongly influence what you notice, how you behave, which opportunities you pursue, and how you interpret what happens around you. When you expect possibility, you are more likely to recognize possibility. When you expect rejection, you may overlook opportunities because your attention is already searching for evidence that things will fail. The mind tends to notice what matches the story it repeatedly tells itself. Change the story, and you begin changing what you see, how you respond, and what you are willing to pursue. Most people have this process backward. They believe they will finally feel confident after they succeed. They think they will feel worthy after they receive the money, after the relationship arrives, after the opportunity works out, or after they achieve the goal. They keep waiting for the outside world to give them permission to feel differently inside. But you can begin cultivating confidence, gratitude, hope, and steadiness before the final result appears. You do not have to wait for life to become perfect before you allow yourself to experience a healthier inner state. The feeling can become the starting point rather than merely the reward. Think about what happens when you genuinely begin seeing yourself differently. You may start speaking with greater confidence. You may become more willing to try something new. You may stop rejecting yourself before anyone else has the opportunity to respond. You may notice conversations you once ignored, opportunities you previously dismissed, or possibilities that were always present but hidden behind your old expectations. Other people may respond differently because your behavior has changed. Your decisions may change because your assumptions have changed. Your life can begin moving in a new direction because you are no longer making every decision from the same old identity. This is why the idea of becoming the person who receives good things is more powerful when understood as an identity shift rather than a promise of guaranteed outcomes. You are not demanding that life obey you. You are developing a new relationship with possibility. You are telling yourself that you are allowed to pursue meaningful opportunities, that you are capable of handling success, and that you do not have to remain loyal to the limitations you inherited from the past. You are no longer automatically assuming that struggle is the only path available to you. You are creating room for something different. And right now, you have a choice about the assumption you carry forward. You can continue telling yourself that good things are always far away, that opportunity belongs to other people, and that you must struggle endlessly before anything positive can happen. Or you can begin practicing a different belief, that you are capable of recognizing opportunities, receiving positive experiences, and moving toward a life that feels more aligned with who you want to become. You can hold that belief calmly without desperation. You can allow yourself to feel hopeful without demanding immediate proof. You can take practical steps while maintaining an inner expectation that your future is not limited to your past. The opportunity you are waiting for may not arrive in exactly the form you imagine. The blessing may not look exactly the way you predicted. But when you stop defining your future entirely through yesterday's experiences, you become more open to possibilities you could not previously see. That is where the real transformation begins. You stop waiting for life to prove that you are worthy of good things, and you start living with the quiet understanding that your past does not have the final word. You are not required to remain the person you were yesterday. You can choose a new assumption about yourself today, nurture it through your thoughts and actions, and allow your life to gradually reflect the person you are becoming. And when you fully accept the idea that you are someone who can receive good things, your entire relationship with possibility begins to change. This is where many people lose momentum. They hear a powerful message, feel inspired for a moment, and imagine that something inside them has shifted permanently. Then the day continues, an old problem appears, doubt returns, and they quietly slip back into the identity they have carried for years. They return to the belief that life is difficult for them, that opportunities belong to other people, or that they always have to struggle before they can receive anything meaningful. Then, when nothing seems to change, they conclude that the teaching failed. But often the real issue is that the old assumption was restored before the new one had become familiar. A new belief needs attention, repetition, and time to become natural. If you repeatedly return to the same old story, you strengthen that story. If you repeatedly choose a new one, you give yourself the opportunity to develop a different way of seeing yourself and responding to life. You cannot build your identity around two completely opposite stories forever. You cannot spend one moment believing that you are capable, supported, and worthy of opportunity, and then spend the next several hours telling yourself that nothing good ever happens to you. Eventually, one pattern becomes stronger through repetition. So if you want to develop a different assumption about yourself, you have to give that assumption consistent attention. Return to it when you wake up. Return to it before you sleep. Return to it whenever the old inner dialogue begins speaking again. Imagine yourself as the person you want to become, not as someone desperately trying to escape who they are today, but as someone gradually becoming more familiar with confidence, possibility, stability, and self-trust. The goal is not to force yourself to believe something that feels completely impossible. The goal is to repeatedly practice a healthier inner position until it becomes easier and more natural to occupy. Imagination can be a powerful tool for this process. When you close your eyes and picture yourself handling life with confidence, receiving an opportunity, completing a meaningful goal, or experiencing the peace you have been seeking, you are rehearsing a different response to life. You are giving your mind something new to work with. Instead of automatically returning to the same fear-based scenarios, you begin creating mental experiences centered around possibility and calm expectation. This does not mean imagination guarantees a specific external outcome, nor does it mean you should ignore practical reality. It means your inner rehearsal can influence your mindset, your emotional responses, and the choices you make when real opportunities appear. What you repeatedly imagine can become more familiar, and what becomes familiar often feels easier to embody. There is also a profound difference between receiving and grasping. Grasping says, "I need this to happen, or I will never be okay." Receiving says, "I am open to good possibilities, and I trust myself to recognize and respond to them." One creates tension, the other creates space. When you stop treating every desire as something that must rescue you, you begin approaching life with greater calm. You can want something deeply without making your entire sense of worth depend on getting it. You can hope for abundance without believing that you are incomplete without it. You can pursue opportunities while still knowing that your identity is bigger than any single outcome. Many people spend years trying to transform their circumstances while ignoring the beliefs that influence how they approach those circumstances. They work harder, apply again, push themselves further, and constantly search for the next answer, while an inner voice continues repeating, "Nothing works for me." The problem is not effort itself. Effort can be valuable and necessary. The deeper issue is when every action is driven by fear, desperation, or the belief that you are permanently behind. Changing that internal position can change the way you use your effort. Instead of acting from panic, you can act from clarity. Instead of constantly expecting rejection, you can become willing to approach opportunities with confidence. Instead of assuming that every setback proves something negative about you, you can treat setbacks as information and continue moving forward. The real shift happens privately. Nobody else has to understand it. Nobody has to agree with the new way you see yourself. Your most important conversations are often the ones happening inside your own mind when nobody is watching. Think about those quiet moments before sleep, the first thoughts that appear when you wake up, or the way you speak to yourself after something goes wrong. What do you automatically assume about yourself during those moments? Do you assume you are capable of finding another way, or do you immediately assume you are doomed to repeat the past? Do you expect possibilities, or do you expect disappointment? These quiet assumptions matter because they influence what you notice, what you attempt, and how you respond when life gives you an unexpected opening. Even the word luck can be understood differently. Instead of treating luck as something reserved for a special group of people, you can begin seeing yourself as someone who is open to possibility. You become more attentive to opportunities. You become more willing to speak up, explore, learn, connect, and take reasonable chances. You stop dismissing positive possibilities before they have even had a chance to develop. What once seemed like a lucky coincidence may sometimes be the result of being prepared enough to recognize an opportunity when it appears. Your inner state does not control the universe, but it can dramatically influence how you participate in the world. And now consider fear. Fear often presents itself as certainty when it is actually a prediction. This will go wrong. They will reject me. I will never get another opportunity. Things never work out for me. These statements can feel like facts, but they are often interpretations about what might happen next. Once you recognize that, you gain a little distance from them. You can question the assumption instead of automatically obeying it. You can replace "what if everything goes wrong" with "what if I can handle whatever happens?" You can replace "nothing good ever happens to me" with "I am willing to notice what is possible." You can replace helplessness with curiosity. That is a powerful change because you are no longer allowing fear to write the entire story before life has even unfolded. The most empowering assumption is not that every event will happen exactly as you want. It is that you are capable of moving toward a good life, recognizing opportunities, learning from setbacks, and receiving positive experiences without constantly questioning whether you deserve them. You can begin practicing that identity today, not someday, not after everything is perfect, right now. Let yourself become familiar with the thought that your future can contain opportunities you cannot yet see. Let yourself believe that your past does not have to dictate every chapter ahead. Let yourself move through the day with greater openness, steadiness, and self-respect. You do not have to force the future into existence. You only need to stop allowing yesterday's assumptions to decide what tomorrow is allowed to become.